What up? It's your girl K-Dot, and I am here to help. Today's video requires a little bit of background information about me. I am a freshman in college, and like most colleges, mine has a core curriculum that they pride themselves over the past million, trillion, gajillion years or so. And for us, what we have to do before we come to school is read a specific book. The book that we have to read is the Iliad by Homer, which is actually interesting because most scholars believe by now that Homer is kind of a loose term. It wasn't really one man, or probably not one man, who kept the whole story in his head long enough to write about it. The Iliad began as, a story to tell or to perform to different groups of people. It had everything. It had action, drama, bloodshed, more bloodshed, war, bloodshed, and a little bit of history. Props to people who kept that in their head for as long as they did. But that's probably not why you clicked on the video. You are researching the Iliad. You either have to read it for school or you're trying to figure out what it's about, and I'm going to tell you right now. Are you ready? Here we go. Open up book 1. Bam, already 9 years into the war. 9 years. How does that happen? We don't even need to know. You know why? Let me tell you a secret. The Iliad is not about the Trojan War. It's about Achilles. You know Achilles, I know Achilles, we all know Achilles. Hero, mom's a goddess, dad's immortal. Mom dipped into the river Styx everywhere except his heel. Why shouldn't you just dip them all in? World will never know. So, we're in the 10th year of the Trojan War. You, me, and the Achaeans. The Achaeans are the ancient Greeks. They call them Achaeans because that's what they were called back then. The Achaeans and the Trojans. Got that straight? Awesome. Great. You and me, we're doing good. The Achaeans have just raided Troy, and they come back with a bunch of goods. By goods, I mean golds, food, and women. Because back then, women were objects, not people. So the Achaeans have just raided Troy, and they come back with a bunch of goods. And all the Achaean commanders have split up their goods. So basically, the main two people you need to understand, there's Achilles, our hero, and the king of all the Achaean forces, a guy named Agamemnon. He is the brother of Menelaus. Menelaus' wife is Helen, who started all of this. Or was it Aphrodite? Or was it Paris? Agamemnon has chosen Chryses as his concubine that they've stolen, and Achilles has chosen Briseis. So everybody's happy and nobody's sad, except the women. But then again, this is ancient Greece. But there is someone who is a little bit concerned and is a man, so his voice is heard. And that is priest Chryses, who is Chryseis' father, and he is in Troy. He comes to the Achaeans, mainly Agamemnon, with this huge truckload of gold. And he pleads with Agamemnon. He says, "Look, man, but please give me my daughter back." Agamemnon looks him in the eye and he says, "Nope." And he sends Chryses on his way. Chryses is a priest, as we've mentioned, and he's a priest of high standing. So much high standing that he is buds with your boy Apollo. Apollo says, "You know what, Chryses, you've been a good guy, you've been a good man to me, I like you, so I'm gonna help you out." Apollo sends a plague on the Achaeans. For 9 days they suffer under this. Achilles is like, "You know what, man, we need to figure out what's going on." By chance, they just happen to have a seer on their hands named Calchas. He's like, "Dude, what's going on? We haven't done anything wrong, besides kidnap a bunch of women and force them into slavery." And Calchas looks at the bird wings and the feathers and the bones and whatever seers do at that time, and he says, "Promise me you'll protect me no matter what I say, because what I'm about to say is about to ruffle some feathers." Pun implied, because he looks at feathers to tell the future. And Achilles is like, "Dude, you got my word. Just tell us what's going on." Calchas reveals what's up, that Apollo will only lift the plague if they give back Chryses' daughter. And Agamemnon's a little pissed. He's like, "Dude, I just picked this. This is my trophy. Even though this is actually a person, I should treat her as such." Feeling the pressure of all the Achaean soldiers who are suffering under this plague, decides to give her up. But he feels slighted. He's like, "Dude, I'm the only one with no concubine? Heck no." And so he makes the decision that he needs somebody's concubine. I think you see where the story is going. He says to Achilles, "You know what? You want me to give up Chryses? Then I'm gonna take Briseis." I'm probably massacring these names, but that's okay. Achilles is like, "Hell no. I chose Briseis for me, and I'm the best warrior here." Agamemnon says, dude, I'm the king. You gotta do what I say. Finally, tit for tat, this for that, Achilles has to give her up. Now Achilles' feelings are hurt. Thus sparks a 24-book epic about Achilles' rage for having his girl taken from him. But moving on. Achilles is pouting by the sea, and he calls on his mom Thetis, who's a sea nymph goddess, fortuitous. And he says, "Ma, Agamemnon's not being nice. Gosh, life is so hard." The mommy Thetis can't really say no to her son because his life kind of sucks. He has two fates to choose. Either he lives his life as an old man where nobody will ever remember him when he dies, or he fights in this battle, this one, the Trojan War, and he dies horrifically and early, but the world will remember him as the hero. He's pretty bummed out about it. And they took his concubine. He turns to his mom and he says, "You know what? I have a really good idea. You're a goddess. Zeus is a god. Doesn't he owe you a favor? I want you to go to Zeus, and I want you to tell him that as long as I'm not fighting, you should help the Trojans." Let's keep in mind that Achilles is fighting for the Achaeans, and the Trojans of Troy are his enemies. So he's basically saying, I want you to help the enemies so that they seem better because I'm not fighting. It's a little petty, but I guess you can be petty when your mom's a goddess. There's this like, okay, I'm gonna do this because you're my son and I love you, but I don't think it's a good idea. And so she goes off to Zeus and makes him swear that he'll help the Trojans as long as Achilles is not fighting. And Achilles is all pleased with himself. Next comes about 10 books of fighting. And there's a lot of fighting. On the other side of the fighting, there's Paris, who's, a big wuss on behalf that he started all of this. And then there's his brother, Hector, who's really the hero of the Trojan side. He's brave, he has a wife, he has a baby boy, he's the epitome of a man's man. And he fights hard. Even though he has been told, as everyone has been told in this story, that Troy will fall. But he fights anyways, and that's commendable. Then Zeus, as promised, helps the Trojans a lot, and at one point, he's helped the Trojans so much that they've beat the Achaeans back all the way to their ships on the ocean side, and the Trojans are about to burn the ships. Now this is troublesome, because if they burn the ships and the Achaeans can't fight their way out, they're as good as dead. Now Achilles at this point is sitting it out, and he still thinks he's justified in sitting it out, even as he sees all this shit about to hit the fan. And he's also pulled out all of his soldiers, the Myrmidon soldiers. But there's one guy who says, this seems a little much, Achilles. And you know who that is? That's Achilles' BFF, like best friend bracelets kind of BFF, and that's Patroclus. Achilles and Patroclus are like tight, like they're like thicker than thieves, two peas in a pod, you know what I'm talking about? Like if they could marry each other, they probably would. Patroclus says, Achilles, come on man, this is a little much, right? But Achilles is like, no, my honor. Patroclus is thinking like, oh my god, not the honor thing again. Patroclus begs him, and finally Achilles is like, okay fine, you know what? You want to fight? I grant you the right to fight. Patroclus is like, yes. I'll even give you my armor. How about that? But you have to promise me, like pinky promise killers, that you will only fight to protect the ships, that you won't go after Hector. Patroclus is like, yeah, Achilles, got it, no problem. Patroclus puts on the armor and he steps out, and Trojans go batshit crazy. They're like, oh no, Achilles is back. Real fear right now, because that's the kind of reputation that Achilles had. The Achaeans are able to rally their troops and protect their ships. Patroclus goes after the Trojans, who are retreating at this point. He's like, I'm gonna kill them all right now, about to end this war. Killing more Trojans, and finally he decides to go after Hector. The gods are up on Olympus, and they're like, Patroclus is fated to die. It's in his fate. So let's do it now. Let's get this done right now. Zeus turns to Apollo's like, Apollo, you gonna wrap this up? He's like, I got you, man. Apollo descends from Mountain Olympus, and he strikes Patroclus off the back of his head. He hits him so hard his helmet falls off. He hits him so hard he's starting seeing stars and stripes and everything lights. While he's down and while he's out, Hector sees an opportunity and stabs him. Patroclus is there, dying, bleeding to death. He's like, dude, what just happened? And Hector's all above him like, oh my god, I did it all by myself. Patroclus is like, well, you had help from the gods. It's like cheating. And Hector's like, psh, I didn't have help from no gods. News gets back to Achilles that his BFF/husband/BFF/girlfriend is dead. He starts to grieve. He starts ripping out his hair, putting dirt on his face, crying, wailing. He doesn't eat. He stops eating. And you know stuff is serious when somebody stops eating. Then his rage, all the anger that he felt for Agamemnon and for this whole thing with the concubines, shifts and focuses and magnifies about 1,000,000% on Hector. But there's the issue of his armor, because he's given his armor to Patroclus, who died in front of Hector, and Hector now has his armor. So you can't really go into battle when you don't have any armor. So he goes to Mommy Thetis again. He's like, Mom, I'm really sad right now, so can you not say anything? Can you not give me any I told you so's? I just need some armor. I just need you to get that for me. And Mommy Thetis is like, okay, son, I'll do it because I love you, and I can't say no to you. And so she goes to Hephaestus. Hephaestus is like master metal worker right now. Okay, and so he makes Achilles this awesome armor, and even more important, this awesome shield. Now pay attention to this shield. Google it, research it, every single thing that you can analyze about this shield, because the shield is important. It's painted with the city of peace, the city of war, the stars, the heavens, the earth, the people, the mortals, the immortals. It's a pretty important shield. Thetis comes down with the shield and the armor, and he gives it to Achilles, and Achilles is looking real badass right now at this point in his life, and he puts on the shield and everything, and then they go to war. Achilles starts killing left and right, and then he goes after Hector. At first Hector's like, don't even worry guys, I got this. But then he realizes he's in deep shit. He starts running around the castle trying to get the archers to hit Achilles, but it's to no avail, and Achilles kills him. And you would think that'd be enough, but Achilles is pissed. Achilles is really, really, really pissed. And so Achilles takes Hector's dead body, hooks it up to the back of his chariot, and starts dragging the body around in the dirt in front of the Trojans. And his father, King Priam, and his wife, and Helen, everybody who's in Troy. He takes the body back to the Achaean camp, and they hold a nice ceremony for Patroclus, full on with human sacrifices and food and wine and things like that. But then there's still the issue of Hector's body, and Achilles is just still pissed. I mean, he's had his closure, but he's still pissed. He refuses to return the body and refuses to bury the body, and that's an issue, especially in this time period. In this time period, it was a huge offense and a huge crime not to give the proper burial rites to dead bodies, because then they can't go to the underworld. They kind of linger in this purgatory area. Achilles doesn't care. He's letting the body sit out to rot, and he's dragging around every day. Finally, the gods say enough is enough. All the gods make Achilles give the body back. They send Hermes, who's the messenger god, who disguises himself as a mortal, to lead King Priam into the belly of the beast to Achilles and ask for Hector's body back, which now is being preserved by Apollo. Priam comes to Achilles and he says, come on, man, this is my son, and you're being a real asshole. Achilles is like, you know what, you remind me of my dad, and I'm never going to see him again because I'm going to die here. They have some wine, they have some food, they load up Hector's body, and they sneak Priam out of the Achaean camps back to Troy. And Achilles has granted, or has been forced to grant, Troy a 10-day reprieve in order to bury Hector. And that's what they do. And so all the women of Troy, Helen and his wife and everyone, they come around Hector's dead body, and they just start crying. They start bawling, because his death is the symbolic death of Troy. It's the end of a civilization, so it's pretty serious. And the end. Here are some links from people who know the story much better than I am, and who've been at this whole summarizing the story for others to use. There's one link among these that actually accounts all the deaths in like little not cute, but little infographics for you, so that's actually pretty interesting. And there's some other stuff, so you might want to look through those. Hopefully you have enjoyed this first video of the Iliad by Homer, and hopefully you learned something today. If not, it's okay. What is knowledge? Deuces.